Hey team, it's time for an Early Career Designers portfolio review. I'm Megan Thomas and I'm a senior UX designer with almost 10 years of experience in enterprise software design. I've taught and mentored over 300 early career designers through UC Berkeley's UX UI Design Bootcamp. In this video, I'm going to review an early career designer's portfolio and share my thoughts as a senior designer. My goal is to provide actionable feedback to help them succeed as they look for a job in the UX industry. Join me for a stream of consciousness walkthrough as I assess one of their case studies. Remember, mine is just one opinion. Make sure to get multiple perspectives before making any changes. All right, let's dive into the review and learn together. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Early Career Designer portfolio review. And today we're taking a look at Amanda's portfolio. I'm super excited about this. I just realized as I started saying that, I think I say that every time. I mean, is that my tagline? I'm super excited about this. All right, I will work on being a little bit more creative with my intros. Feedback is welcome. Also, if you're just like, Megan, just get to the point, fine. Let's get there. This is Amanda Wilson. I am excited that she is a product designer. Excuse me, I should not make assumptions. I believe Amanda is a product designer, I believe, because it says right here on their portfolio, based in the Pacific Northwest. And of course, I've already clicked around a little bit because I love clicking on things. And I'm excited because you used UXfolio. It makes it really easy to get your case studies out and get them in front of people. Sometimes just having something to show is better than going, I don't know how to create all this. So way to choose an easy to use template. Let's see how you personalized it. I also love that you are demonstrating, so you've got a product designer title here. And I think if you've watched any of my videos, you know I come in and I want to find out, like, how are you pitching yourself? And is what you're saying you are aligned with what you have put on your portfolio in terms of what you do? And I really like that you're going with product designer because you've got a lot of chops in the visual space. So I didn't even click through the book design, but I really love what you've got here for magazine design. One of my best students in my first cohort, hi Jen, I don't know if you watch these because you're busy being awesome, but Jen told me that in order to learn graphic design, not just graphic design, but layout design, truly layout design, it's not really let's just make things up in our head and see how they look on the screen or on the paper, but they actually took magazine covers and recreated them in their design tool. At this point, it might have been Adobe Photoshop, who knows? But they used the opportunity to look at what actually went to print and then recreated it to understand, well, what does that spacing look like? What does that font look like? What if I make this adjustment versus that adjustment? Does it have the same impact? Looking at what many designers and art directors looked at and said, yes, this is the most compelling story we can tell. And then they published that paper. So they're learning from the best, and I love what you've created here. So I should really scroll down. This is awesome. I love the face, the roar, but I love that you've created some really cool things here, like the inside of the magazine, Paleo Fitness. This is really compelling. It's very interesting. I love what I'm seeing here. So I already know you have an intuitive, or at the very least, a very well learned understanding of hierarchy and impact of our designs. So as a visual designer, you've already got some really awesome things that support what you say you are as a product designer. So I just wanted to click through that a little bit because I think it's really interesting and it contributes to what you do. So your two primary projects here are UX case study and UI case study. So these are aligning with you as a product designer. And I did click through the Powells.com redesign really quickly because I haven't seen anyone actually complete some sort of redesign for something that I'm familiar with, but that also isn't, like nasa.gov or whatever, like something that everyone sees and we know has no real chance of being aligned with our school project. So I love this. I'm going to come back to it probably, maybe. We'll see how long this one is. But since this is my, area of expertise, I wanted to focus on the UX case study today. And I'm still working on refining my sound. So hopefully, sorry about the clicky clackies here on the microphone. I'm still working on that, on the sound for things. All right, let's look at microbiome. So we have the heading image. Okay, I wondered if I could click on that or if I could scroll that. It looks really good. Microbiome with the watercolor. I'm wondering if there are any alignments, if there is a watercolor here, if this is a theme throughout. I'm excited. All right, so the problem you're establishing is that recent studies have shown that the best way to improve the diversity of the gut microbiome is by improving the diversity, not just the quantity of plants in the diet. But for most people, this is not an easy task. Where and how to start? Interesting premise. Solution is Microbiome is a new application that will help users incorporate more plant diversity into their diets, while also teaching them about the gut microbiome. Microbiome will provide a wide variety of plant-based recipes, educational resources, and an easy-to-use plant point tracker to help them reach daily and weekly goals. All right, this is interesting. This is telling me that you might be trying to add some gamification design techniques into an application without necessarily focusing on gamification. And that is great. Lots of folks will lean into specific things about gamification without really thinking about the holistic experience. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you do this. I'd love to see tools can be useful, but I'd really love to see, especially since you have so much content here under problem solution, I think it would be really interesting if you called out not just my role, but maybe my major tasks or my major jobs to be done. And the 3 things that you feel like you just really crushed it. Maybe 5, if that feels like, no, I definitely crushed it on 5 totally different tasks. But if you can, identify what you helped do to both identify the problem as well as ideate the solution. My design process. It feels, okay, so my design process feels like it's not totally necessary. It just is a nice little breakup between the next section because you're not really going into the design process right here. I'm assuming I'm going to see that design thinking process as I continue to scroll. And I know UX Folio makes it relatively easy to add a little component in here that shows it. Is it totally necessary to put this, what appears to be an H1 in the center? Yeah, that's an H1. So it feels like we should actually only be using, well, not feels, for the sake of hierarchy, make sure to only use one H1 on the page. So this technically should only be an H2. And I feel like this is probably, we're looking at an H2 as well. Yeah. So it would be really nice if instead of having this, you just broke it up and said my design process or the process of the project, really. So instead of my design process, give me something that actually leads me story-wise into, we take all this information and that's meant to be the dream transition in the terrible movies, right? Not terrible, but silly movies that I'm thinking of right now. It's one way you could do it. It just feels like it's an unnecessary bit of text. All right, so you're in the empathize stage, but it's not really, though, out in the world. I'm not going to turn to my product manager on my team and say, all right, we're moving into the empathize phase. We're talking about job approvals and what we're bringing into the product. So let's go empathize with some people. It's not really what we say. So what could we say instead that helps people understand where they are in the case study, but also gives an indication that you know what you're talking about? So maybe let's find out what are the competitors up to. That actually feels like a great headline instead of adding yet another headline. So find out what the competitors are up to, maybe research context, and then we're going to talk about users. Yeah, so this could be like research and user understanding. Looks like you first did a competitive analysis on a couple of similar products. No available products that included a plant point tracker, but I chose 2 that focused specifically on improving the gut microbiome through healthy eating. That's a great subtext for that header. Happy Gut provides a plan for a 28-day cleanse. It's free, recipes are included, along with a shopping guide. It's lacking in additional resources. It can't be tailored to fit individual users' needs and has a clunky user experience toggling back and forth between sections. I think these right here, this is a helpful beginner, like an intro, and then give me these in bullet points. Again, make this as scannable as possible. We want to know what'd you do, why'd you do it, what'd you learn. So you could bullet point lacking in additional resources, can't be tailored to fit individuals, clunky user experience, toggling back and forth between sections. That's super helpful. Just make it a little easier to read. And then My Healthy Gut is a research-backed application developed by gut health experts with a heavy focus on living gluten-free to solve digestive problems. It's a paid subscription-based application. The strong foundation in education is where it shines, but the rest of the content and functionality is lacking. If you could give me another couple of bullet points and saying, like, what is the rest of the content and functionality that's lacking? I love these details. This is a great summarization of the competitor research that you did. Tie it in, make it scannable, move past. All right. Who's interested in gut health? With the goal of understanding who would use an app like Microbiome, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. The large M and E on the end are like, me. Okay. What features they would want to see included? I conducted several types of user research. First, an anonymous user survey went out and I analyzed the data from 43 respondents. All right, so we have a visual here, but it looks, yes, I can read it, but we're using text in an image. Again, not terrible for a user experience portfolio. We do like to see a little bit more or a little bit less text, especially if you're going to have text in an image. We need to make sure that it has some alt text just to show that you're aware of what's needed there for user experience. Want to know, an anonymous survey went out and I had 43 respondents. You could actually keep this visual. This is super cute, but I would put this in maybe 5 little spaces. I know UXfolio has a couple of components that let you put numbers inside of a thing. I feel like that would drive a little bit more impact. Altogether, with these as the same color, and the differentiator between the metric text and the description text, it's just not differentiated enough for me to get at a glance, what's the impact? And since we're centering all the text, I have to start fresh looking for the beginning of every line. And it's just like, my brain doesn't want to read it. So you might get some folks who would be very interested in this information, but they're not getting the information in a way that's meaningful and useful. It's interesting. 55%, only 55% eat 1 to 5 different plants per day. 75% of respondents are interested in learning more about gut health. 86% are interested in increasing plant diversity in their diet. And 90% look for new recipes online. I'd love to know, what was your ultimate research question, or what were your 3 major research questions that you wanted to have answered here? Define. Let's see. I conducted interviews with 3 potential users about their habits surrounding gut health, nutrition, cooking, and the role of technology in their daily lives. Okay. I used the results from the interviews to build my 2 user personas. So you only interviewed 3 people and you created 2 user personas from just 3 interviews. It doesn't quite feel like enough, but this is a really good quote. I know in a broad sense that gut health is important, but I don't have a lot of specifics. All of the users cook for families, including kids, and place importance on having healthy, home-cooked meals. All value eating locally and seasonally, and speaking to eating less meat as being a healthier choice. 2 out of 3 are not big app users, and none regularly use health tracking apps. All users browse the internet or use cookbooks for recipe ideas and do not currently use a recipe app. Some interesting thoughts in here that come to mind. Like, one of my first one is this the right thing to build if none of the people you interviewed actually use an app? We're talking about making major habit changes. So not only are they trying to change their diet by adding more plants in or reducing meat that's in their diet, so you've got some potential decision fatigue to work with, but now you're saying that 2 out of these 3 interviews aren't really big app users, and they actually use the internet or cookbooks for recipes and don't use a recipe app. So my guess is that your project is delivering health tracking for plants and recipes, but your target audience is telling you that they're not going to use this. So I feel like your data is not actually going to support the rest of the project here. So let's find out. In eating close to the source, I eliminate a lot of processed foods and foods with a lot of chemicals. Okay. Daphne and Sarah, the user personas were developed to represent the knowledge I gained about users from both surveys and interviews. They touch upon several of the most prominent needs that came across in the research, as well as the predominant age range and comfort level with technology of the users who responded to the survey and the 3 people I interviewed. All right. Therapist, married. This is a little on the small side. Again, I keep saying again because in my mind, this is still a continuation of the daily portfolio review. But I can't assume that everyone who's watching this video has seen any of the previous ones. So let me take that back. The problem we see as senior designers or hiring managers in the industry is that these are kind of meaningless. It's not a helpful metric to share because we know that those are meaningless. And therefore, if you are either not acknowledging that they're meaningless or that you just included them because it was a visual fit for the persona, we're not sure that we can trust that the research is actually communicating to you what you've taken out of it. So I personally would suggest avoiding any of these dots, progress bars, star rating, however we want to demonstrate these. This doesn't communicate anything meaningful to the hiring manager, to the recruiter, or even to the rest of your team. What is this to the developer that you might be working with on this app? What does social media 2 out of 5 mean? Do they like it? Do they not like it? Do they use it frequently? Do they use it infrequently? Do they use it frequently, but they're dissatisfied with their use of social media? There's so many ways that we can interpret that, and it's not helpful for the person who gets caught up on it or the person who is potentially using this user persona to help guide their decisions. This is, again, we've got a lot of, I really have to get rid of that verbal tick, both ums and agains. This is a little small to read. We're getting very, very, very small here, and I cannot seem to actually be able to click into it. I can only skip to the next one. And I don't really see the distinct difference between these user personas at a glance. Yeah. I would differentiate, what did these help you do? So meet Daphne and Sarah. Why are Daphne and Sarah the people who are helping you understand who these users are? So tell me why you created the user personas, and not that I stuck them on the wall and I look at them occasionally, but what was the reason that you knew that you needed to create user personas, and what did it help you do? How would our personas use the app? The 3 user flows represent 3 of the most prominent ways users would engage with the app. First, to log plant points into the tracker. Second, to search for and save recipes. Third, to find educational resources and listen to a podcast or read an article. We're getting down into things being really difficult to see. As someone who's just starting to learn about the gut microbiome, these are interesting user flows, but I'm curious what the intention is for sharing them. So you're saying, how would our personas use the app? But it's less about how would our personas, how would the people that we have invented in our heads use the app, and more about, if I put this in front of someone, what would they actively do? And it does feel like finding educational resources and listening to a podcast or reading an article, they might choose to do that in the app, but I'm wondering what the compelling reason is for, because how do I know that this app has all of the latest, most up-to-date and useful information? We'll see. And again, I got to stop saying that. First, to log plant points into the tracker. I'm very curious how you're going to how you're going to indicate to the user that this is a desired action, and then also to create that desire to take action in the user. Let's find out. Go on a journey with Daphne and Sarah. Next step was to take Daphne and Sarah on user journeys through the app. Where would they go? What would they choose to do? How did these choices make them feel? User journeys were helpful in exploring the experience of the app from our persona's perspective. So you've got user flows and then user journeys. Find plant point tracker, open app, sign in, create account. All right, I like this. I don't usually like receiving app notifications, but I think setting up a notification will help me create a new daily habit. Sign up process includes options to sign in via Facebook or Google. So this is actually an interesting one. Entering each plant is taking a while. Will I really want to do this each night? At least it means I'm eating a lot of plants. Yeah, sure. Search for and filter recipes. I'm going back to the confusion about why do we have two personas and what is the distinction between these two personas? What am I supposed to take out of this? And it does feel like there's no real distinction. So I need you to make that clear to me as a hiring manager that this is a distinction and that you understand the difference between these people, because they are the same people to me. If we're going on the same journey with Daphne and Sarah, then it's basically the same person. Save recipes to meal plan. These are just activities you can do within the app. Maybe you meant to create a behavioral archetype. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Pen to paper, I began creating my prototypes using a pencil and graph paper. I was able to move more quickly, sketch out ideas this way without worrying about everything being pixel perfect right from the start. After completing my flows on paper, I transferred them to mid-fidelity wireframes using Figma. Did 2 levels at mid-fidelity, fleshing them out just a bit to make the screens better able to be tested by users in the next page. All right, sure, that's great. I tested the clickable prototype on 6 users. I would say with 6 users, we're not testing the users, we're testing the prototype. And the users are testing the prototype to ensure that it is usable and easy to process. Gained a lot of useful insight into what was working. Also wanted to call out, I love that you're saying you're taking ownership of the actions that you've taken and not giving away your power or the work that you've done to other folks. This phase of testing gave me solid data to work from as I iterated on my design while creating the high fidelity prototypes. Gained a lot of insight regarding how the users move through the app, where they spent more time exploring and where they need more information to really get the most out of the experience. One capture from the affinity mapping process highlighting some of the responses is shown here. This is just output. I feel like you just wanted to create a visual for this, but what am I supposed to take from this? This person wants notifications. I would like reminders. This person doesn't want a daily reminder. This person doesn't like notifications at all. I'm very confused as to what you are intending me to take away from this. And most of this is, I feel like we could take this out. We created a clickable prototype and conducted usability testing. Ooh, this is good. I would also separate error 1, error 2, error 3. I would separate those solutions and put them down on the next line. It's really, I love this. So drop-down menus during onboarding had poor functionality and caused a lot of frustration. Update prototype steps to improve functionality. No. Okay. Poor functionality. Tell me what actually went wrong. Not poor functionality. No. They couldn't click on it because it wasn't working. The prototype was not completed or something like that. And then the solution is need to make sure that the drop down works as intended, but like tell me more details. So it had poor functionality and then you improved the functionality. Congratulations. You did 2 weeks worth of work, 2 hours worth of work, 2 minutes worth of work. What's going on? Confusion over what icons on the menu symbolize. Add labels to all menu icons. This also meets accessibility standards. So really good job. You can call that out as well. Need option for no notification setting during onboarding. Solution, add additional option to drop-down menu. Not need option, but several users indicated they would like to have no notifications. We needed to add, solution is to add options to allow users to control, user control and freedom to control or to have freedom with how they like to be notified. Error 4 is confusion during goal setting about what goals mean and what are plant points. Add more detail during intro screens, add what are plant points screen before goal setting. Okay. Time to make it look good. Well, now we're going to dip into UI design, and this isn't necessarily a UX design part of the project. So definitely include it, but I'm wondering if that might not be more useful and more meaningful if you actually had a UI case study for the Microbiome app. All right, final design. The high fidelity prototypes went through the most iterations of all the phases to date from their humble beginnings. They were transformed through applying a grid, preference testing. Yeah, applying a grid is, sure, it's pretty standard, but like we conducted preference testing, or I conducted preference testing. I finalized the color palette and fonts based on user feedback. Creation of assets. What's the creation of assets? Is that the pictures within here, or is that the actual creation of the high fidelity prototypes? That's exactly what you did. Design documentation and design language systems, collaboration and feedback with peers, and finally, changes to enhance accessibility. I'd honestly love to know more about what those enhancements were for accessibility. That would be useful. I love that you've used a mock-up where you've got it in real life feeling. That's fantastic. 2 more functions of the app I would like to develop. Did the user research lead you to believe that this would be valuable to users? If so, call that out. Otherwise, you're sounding very much like a feature factory. We want to create this and we think it's going to be useful for people. Is that solving a user need or a user problem? Call it out. First, the grocery list. I would separate this out. This is a really long paragraph. So when you say first, the grocery list function is part of the recipes section, just drop that in. I would even, just tighten this up a little bit. And then learning my first start to finish UX project. Congratulations, good work. Learning new software had its more frustrating moments, but what really took the most practice was setting aside my own interests and biases in order to create the app in a way that was most beneficial to the user. Feels like we're still learning that, and that is also totally great. User testing process, as well as the peer feedback portion, were valuable lessons in learning from constructive criticism and not getting attached to my original design decisions. This is something that most early career designers don't learn for a little while until they've kind of had some frustrations, but your first draft is never your best draft. That is almost, I don't even want to say almost, I can't qualify it. Your first draft is never your best draft. You will always be able to do better. But if you only take your first draft and go, yep, that's good enough, then you're not a good designer. You are not willing to take on new information and change your mind. So I appreciate that you are calling out how many times you are at least alluding to the fact that you needed to set aside your own interests and biases in order to create the app that was beneficial to the user. Nice work. Amanda, this is really fantastic. I'm super excited about this. I appreciate what you've got going on in the world. I think you are going to have a great career, and I hope you get some attention soon. And I'm going to finally do the thing that I keep forgetting to because the little icon is over to the left, but is this not the cutest thing? Nice work, Amanda. Oh my God, I love it so much. All right, I am going to say goodnight. I will see you tomorrow with another early career designer portfolio review. Thanks so much. I'll see you.